Chapter 5 The Fortified City. Zeba tackled the jagged, undulating land, down and up tree-covered slopes. Katy saw the land open up to a wide, sunlit grassland, leading to farmland spread in all directions in a patchwork of various shades of green. In the center, what looked like a white multi-level cake topped with candle-like towers rose up in the middle of the plains. "That is Citadel," informed Zeba, pausing at the edge of the last sheer slope before the plains. "That is so cute." What Zeba called a city was way smaller than what Katy imagined. It looked like a charming rural fairy tale town, the size of the popular theme park she went to all the time. She grew up in the suburban sprawl of Southern California. The towns and cities of her world were not walled off as protection from hostile invading forces. There were no vast open natural landscapes in between each city and town. There were so many people back home that one city simply blended into another, with only street signs and freeways to mark the borders of each city. Homes, office parks, industrial buildings, and shopping centers covered what was once farmland. How they managed to feed and water everyone remained a mystery to Katy. "Beyond this is my home. You can see a little bit of Altiplano from here," said Zeba while pointing above Citadel. Squinting in the bright sunlight, Katy could see far beyond to a dark mountain that was flat on top with clouds skirting the midsection. Down the slope and into farmland they went. Centaurs more massive than Zeba plowed fields. Kangaloops, kangaroo with antelope head, coconut crabs, spiders, and other creatures harvested and planted. Up ahead on the road, large, strong creatures hauled carts loaded with produce towards the city. Zeba pulled up alongside a polar pony cart. "You survived! Long journey that was, Zeba. Have you come to trade this creature?" "Name your price," joked the polar pony. After introductions, Katy tuned out of the conversation they were having. Most kids do that when the grown-ups are talking about things they do not understand. "What do you think? Shall we try it?" asked Zeba. Katy refocused attention from watching the others work in the fields. She looked at Zeba, silently trying to recall what the question was about. "No matter. It's time to get going. I'll see you on the inside," said Zeba to the polar pony, before picking up her pace. "Don't get eaten," joked the polar pony to Katy as they made their way to the ramp and drawbridge. Two regally poised snow-white tiger swans sat on stone pedestals on both sides of the entrance. Bright, big, glassy cat eyes quietly gazed upon her. Katy was just another funny-looking creature allowed to pass under the massive iron gate of the 5-story outer wall, with eye-shaped slots for firing arrows. At the end of the 3-meter-wide wall tunnel, a second pair of tiger swans faced the bustling market plaza with towering architecture. Katy's senses were overwhelmed by the sights, sounds, and smells of strange foods and creatures brushing past her. Her brain felt foggy, as if nothing was real, like being in a glass box. Numbly, Katy untied the bundles and bags Zeba carried before jumping off. Zeba spread everything open on an empty patch of ground. "This place is one of the last refuges. Many are arming themselves to the teeth, preparing to be attacked," said Zeba as creatures gathered around them. Zeba hoisted Katy onto her back to avoid being trampled by the mess of legs. Up top, Katy watched Zeba barter and be paid with shiny gold discs, silver rods, bronze ingots, and crystal beads. A bolt of terror shot through Katy when she noticed a handful of tarantulas the size of wagon wheels hanging from the walls of a stall across from them. It was the same feeling she got of looking at a tank full of live lobsters or crabs for the first time. Katy's fear subsided as they stayed put, each one industriously spun silk from their abdomen onto wooden spools. A sapphire blue spider spun silver, while a ruby red spider spun gold. An emerald green spider with a scorpion tail made white. The brown spider dyed the white silk, and the black spider wove the various colors into bolts of fabric. "Which one is the prettiest? Pick a couple for me to buy," said Ziba, urging Katy down to peruse their dazzling selection. She approached the spiders carefully, afraid of how they would react. Her tiger swan casually padded down the street between them. Dozens of circular, obsidian-black eyes watched her approach. The black spider took a break from weaving and held out the finished end of fabric for Katy to see and invited her to touch. It was thick but light, soft but surprisingly strong, as the black spider demonstrated by tugging at the fabric with 2 arms. Katy walked back and forth among the racks and display tables, comparing pieces as the spiders patiently worked and watched. "Who made this one? It's beautiful," asked Katy, raising a shiny blue fabric embroidered with flowers and leaves. Spider eyes drifted over to the brown spider. It gave what seemed like a bow before going back to work. Katy reduced her favorites down to the shiny ultramarine blue, golden yellow, and green bolts. Ziba gave the spiders a small bag of coins. Loaded with new things to carry home, Ziba went to an inn and paid for a room. Once inside the room, Katy saw it was a small room with a small window above a sleeping pad large enough for a centaur. Ziba unloaded everything and filled up what little floor space was left. They took turns going down the hall to wash up in the bathroom shared by all the guests. Ziba strapped on her own weapons and slung a small bag over her shoulders. With the door locked, they walked out to find an eating establishment. "This is a very good one. I want you to try their tea," said Ziba as she opened the door to the golden spider and let Katy step in first. "Welcome. You can take a seat by the bar or by the window over there," said a furry golden spider the size of a golden retriever dog. It had 4 large, round, bunny rabbit eyes. It pointed one of its 8 arms to the empty tables. Katy had a terrible fear of the dime-sized black spiders at home, but this shopkeep was not terrifying, just a tad creepy. Katy followed Ziba to a window table. "Hello, we would like to order a pot of your special tea," said Ziba, settling in. "Terrific," chimed the shopkeeper. He walked across the ceiling over to their table to pull back a tall chair and lifted Katy into it with one arm. A second arm put down a hot glass pot of water in front of her and dropped a dried-up ball of leaves into it. Another arm dropped down 2 cups. A third put down a plate of cut fruits. The tea ball opened up its leaves and a white flower unfurled. A second bud floated up from the center and blossomed with bold pink and red petals. "Wow," said Katy. "Pretty, isn't it?" smiled the shopkeeper as he slid the fruit into the pot of hot water. She took out her tablet to take pictures. The spider poured drinks into the 2 cups while he wiped down a smudge on the wooden tabletop. Ziba stood on the opposite side of Katy when a menu was set in front of them. It was in a language Katy could not read, so Ziba picked out dishes for her to try. While waiting for their food to arrive, they sipped the delicious tea as they gazed out the window. "I don't believe it. The dragon. It's here," said Ziba as she pointed to the sky. Katy saw a red blur glide to the ground from the top of the city walls. Creatures scattered out of its way as it landed in the plaza. It went straight for a food stall and gorged on the display. A hedgehog shopkeeper yelled, hitting it with a wooden broom. With a red flash of wings, she was knocked on the ground. Dragon moved on to harass and take from the other shopkeepers. Ziba rushed out the door, and Katy jumped off her high seat to follow. Coming to where she could better view the red dragon, Ziba stopped. Katy ran to stand by her side. Go back and wait for me, ordered Zeba, and gave Katie a handful of coins to pay the bill, and pointed back to the golden spider. Stop that, yelled Zeba, getting close. Recognizing Zeba, it made for the stairs leading to the top of the city wall. A third pair of tiger swans moved along the top to meet it. Midway up, it leapt off the stairs and glided over the plaza, blotting out the sunlight as it passed over Zeba. It was heading towards the city gate. Zeba leapt over carts, barrels, and weaved through the crowds to follow. It landed in front of the tiger swans, blocking the exit with massive wings and mouths open. Behind them, the iron gate began to lower. Dragon hurled anything and anyone it could pick up to throw at the tiger swans. It slashed the flight feathers off of one, catching the tossed creatures in his mouth and paws. It leapt into the back of the other guard as it ducked to avoid being hit in the face by a barrel. It then used the added height to glide out of the city under the lowering gate. Zeba galloped and slid through the bottom of the gate just before it closed. Zeba fired arrows from the bridge while giving chase. A pair of tiger swans dropped down from a guard tower in pursuit. Katie watched from inside the gate as Zeba and Dragon disappeared into the orchards of the surrounding farmland.